Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Load of Balls talk show. And I'm delighted to be joined by Stephen Poacher. Stephen, how's things?
Not too bad, John. How are you, man?
Good. How you find isolation and?
Yeah, fine. It's great. Well, with my energy, it's hard to get your head around it. But no, listen, John. I was just chatting to a neighbour there tonight. Actually, we're just saying that everybody's in the same boat. Like, and it's you're only been asked to do a very very simple thing and stay at home and lie low for a few weeks. So hopefully, come the start of May and stuff, we'll see a wee bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully.
No, definitely. And again, out at 8 o'clock for all the frontline staff, and that's it was great to see.
Brilliant.
Stephen, I got you on the show tonight basically to pick your best 15. Now, I didn't set any criteria for you at the start. We're going through the 1 to 15. You sent me through the names, and I'm surprised you named 6 forwards, to be honest with you. But we'll get into that in more detail later on. But
a few of them are going to be shot at the roll.
How'd you find it?
No, I really enjoy these things, John, but I always find them very, very controversial. It's the beauty of football is, and I've always said this, football's based on opinions, and I think that's what keeps the whole thing going. If everyone didn't have an opinion, it would be a boring out spectacle and a boring out sport. And funny again, I was chatting to a neighbour across the road there, Chrissy Dorn. Chrissy's a Shamrocks man. He was asking me about football, and we're talking about it. And he was asking me about the Shane Staples thing I was talking about earlier. The wee show I do every Wednesday. And he says, well, you get much stick over it. And I said, of course you do. Like I said, but I'm only giving my opinion. I'm not an expert. I'm far from it. But I suppose going back to this, John, it was only when I sat down and I'm referring to this sheet in front of me here that I looked at the players that I've been very, very fortunate by the coach. Very, very fortunate from way back in 2001 when I started in St. Clement's Kilkeel, and I suppose that for me was a real hotbed of down talent. I don't think there was a player. I would say you probably could have got a 15 out of St. Clement's Kilkeel alone, John. That you could have picked lads that went on to play for Down, and that's not just the criteria of playing for the county. Of course, it's not, because there's probably lads within this that, well, most of them probably have at some stage, but there's lads within this that wouldn't have had an illustrious county career. There's other lads that didn't have, that did, and then there's obviously other lads that sort of were a mixed bag. But listen, it was very, very difficult. I could have picked 3 or 4 different teams. There's no question about it. But it just got me thinking. It got me thinking, and it gave me a bit of food for thought. And we'll throw it out anyway, and we'll see what the Down GA public think.
Well, I'm delighted, because I hope you get a bit of grief for the players you've missed out. So
it won't matter. It won't matter, because whether I missed them or not, I'm going to get grief anyway. But I suppose it's worth noting though as well. I know I had 3 seasons with Carlo, and I didn't include any Carlo players, just from the simple point of view being, John, I think that we're going out, probably our viewing public's probably not. There's not be too many down in Rathvilly or Tyrone or places like that are watching this. So I just thought, look, we'll leave that out. There is 4 or 5 of Carlo lads, obviously, the likes of Shane Redmond and Brendan Murphy and Sean Murphy and Sean Gannon and Paul Grovick and the likes of that Dara Foley possibly as well would have been close to great footballers, and serious experience, savage experience, and would have been close to it. And obviously I know people probably would associate the fact that I've started managing Bryansford. Well, there's a Bryansford player who's made it, but he's made it under a different umbrella. Coached him at down under 21s, but I've obviously left him out because we haven't obviously kicked a competitive ball, So this is really based on my time at Clement, and React, Mayo Bridge, Ballyholland, and down under 21s.
Yeah, Steve, I'll just go through your career then as a coach. Start off in React 2009 to 2011, down under 21s 2010 to 2012, Mayor Bridge 2012, Ballyholland 2013 to 18, Carlo then overlaps 2017 to 2019, and then currently now you're with the Down Miners and the Bryansford senior team. You've also St. Clement's from 2001 to 2018, and you're now up at St Joseph's Newry as well. So an array of teams and different abilities, attitude. What do you think goes into making a standout player?
Well, first and foremost, I suppose, John, the first thing to acknowledge is that I've been very fortunate, and very lucky to have coached, at every level, and I suppose that it's, you could probably argue from under 12s right up to inter-county senior level, and it's great. It used to make me laugh. Like, I used to leave a session in Clubman's on a Tuesday afternoon or Thursday afternoon after having coached a bunch of year 8s of 11-year-olds and travel down the road 2.5 hours to Carlow and coach a senior in the county team, and it's coaching's a wonderful place, privilege obviously to have, and for me, any team I've been involved in, John, it's been a great privilege. I think that's the most important thing to say, and it is a passion of mine that I love coaching. I love making an impact on young people's lives, particularly school. It's probably why I've been involved in school teaching for nearly 20 years, and you see all sorts. You come across all sorts of characters as well. I think the one thing, John, it's important to remember is, and I remember Shane Mulholland used to tell me this at Ballyholland. We had a young lad playing for us at Ballyholland called Patrick Quinn, and I'm sure everyone would know him as Gunner. And Hollow used to say to me, look, there's a circle of rules for everybody, and then there's a separate circle for Gunner, But that's the truth. That's the fact of the matter. Like, it's, for me, a player, one cap doesn't fit all. I think if you're gonna have the one cap fits all process, like, you're not gonna have too many players in your care. And I think that it's important that every player is treated respectfully on their merits and their situation. And we obviously, one of the things that I would have obviously learned from my own father, of course, who was probably the best coach I ever had. And I'm not just saying that because he's my father, but Daddy would have worked with the likes of Benny and Rolly Sexton and Danny Hughes and Mickey Walsh and those lads, and he would have had them through soccer. Now, I know it was a different sport, but at the same time, he was a fantastic man manager, John, and I know the lads, Ronnie Murder and stuff, and those lads all came through Daddy. And the first thing I would have said was, like, we really wanted to play for your dad. He's a great man. He's a great man to speak to and stuff like that. And I suppose that's one of the things that I would have learned. And then obviously from John Morrison, the late great John Morrison, John would always had a philosophy, John, that the players won't know what you care until they know that you care. And I think that's important. The players know you actually care, not just with them as players, John, but as them as people. And I suppose you're looking in the individual, in the player. You're looking for a number of attributes. You're obviously looking for their technical ability. How good they are technically, physically, obviously, is something that they can control as well. You're not just responsible for their physical condition, and obviously tactically, their awareness of how to play within a system or how to see their game sense as such. Like, without being disrespectful to anyone, you might have had a player who might not have been a straight A student in school, but would have had what I would have called real smart football sense. And I think that's important to note as well. Players on the field that are very, very smart, and might just be as smart off the field as but they were particularly smart on the field. And I think mentally, you're looking for that as well. The mental strength, and I suppose the higher up the ladder you go, when you get to the county level, I suppose you're looking for that real mental toughness. It's funny, tonight I just noticed on Twitter there, Sean Gannon's running a course. Sean would have played for Carlow. He's running a webinar next Monday night. Them webinars are brilliant at the minute, actually, John. The stuff that you're doing yourself, it's fantastic, because it gives coaches that sort of thirst and something to look at that we don't normally see with the current situation we're in. But Sean's doing one in building resilience in young players, And I was probably spoiled in St Columbus, because Mourne had a very unique attribute in that, I suppose it's something that we would have used, John, to our advantage. We were a very small school, but we would have been coming up against the likes of St Mark's and St Malachy's, who were huge schools, 6-7 times the size of us. But we would have always had this sort of silent mantra among ourselves, the Mourne spirit, And it was something that was ingrained in those young lads in Ballymartin and Addycall and Longstone, Glasdrumman, and React. These lads had something about them. And I suppose if you go back to all the teams in Down that were successful, there was very few teams in Down that were successful that weren't backboned by players from Mourne. And if you even think back to 2010, that were kicking the ball away, or probably our last really good team that we could talk about in Down. And you had Brendan McVeigh, you had Ambrose, you had Mark Poland, you had Mark Dorn, you had Clarky, you had John, you had Marty, you had James Colgan. You had a real, core. I don't want to leave anybody out, like Conor Harsh and Shane Harsh, the panel as well. But you had real good, solid footballers from Dorn. So I suppose one of the identities that I would like to see in a player, first and foremost, is not just the talent. It's the industry and the work rate, John. And if that's in them, I think you're halfway there.
Yeah, because I remember you were on the podcast show before, and we were talking about Ballyholland against Cardiff, and you were saying it's one of your takeaway things from coaching is that maybe you didn't get the balance of the team right that day.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true, and probably disrespected the opposition, which is something that I would have learned from. Like, you're learning all the time, and for me in coaching, if you're not continually learning, you're obviously standing still, and that's the key thing. And I suppose that night I'd taken a lot of opinions on board, and going down to Newcastle that night, I was fully convinced, and you might think I'm mad here, but I was fully convinced we would win the game comfortably, and I suppose it's a lesson, a hard lesson learned. Like, we were caught that night in the last year of Ballyholland, in fact, but it was a carried off team, John, that were up and coming. They were fresh. They were full of running. And look, at half time, the game should have been over. We were 8-5 up or 9-6 up. I can't remember what the score was, but we'd kicked 11 wides, and most of the wides, John, had come from scoreable positions in around the edge of the D. They weren't mad. It was just one of those nights that nothing went for us. They came out at the start of the second half, scored a goal early, give them a bit of energy, But look, from that, I think Bourne played them in the next round, and I remember Paddy running my door the next one. But he was the game, So he wasn't taking any chances at all. But no, you would have learned a wee bit that night, And I suppose I went with I abandoned what we were good at, because Ballyholland were very, very good at sort of what I would call probably like, they were really workmanlike, and we never beat, when I was at Ballyholland, we never beat teams, John, by 10 points. Just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. It wasn't in our DNA. It wasn't in our nature. We would have prided ourselves on really hard fought wins and grinded results out, and that was just, it was just in us. It nearly suited us when the game was tight. Listen, don't get me wrong. There was games where we had some brilliant wins. I remember one night in particular, beating Patrick. I remember one night in particular beating Clonduff. We beat Mayo Bridge quite comfortably as well one night in the Bridge, by 6 or 7 points. There was nights where we took big wins, but there weren't, like Mayo Bridge or a Kilcoo or a Bourne. John could go out on any given Friday night and beat a team by 8 or 9 points and maybe not come in a second year. That sort of, we always had to be on our game. But that night I'll never forget, I sort of played a very imbalanced forward line. I played sort of probably what I would have called 5 or 6 scoring forwards, and that we would have sort of perceived them as, and it just, the balance was just so wrong. We didn't have the same level of industry. We didn't have the same level of work rate. We just looked disjointed. And funny, a good friend of mine at the time said to me after he was at the match, and he says, it just wasn't a Ballyholland-like performance. I was shocked at the team you picked, and it was an interesting one. But look, it's lessons to be learned too, and I think football now is just about trying to get that balance, and even if you look at the Dublin team, for example, everybody sort of looks at them as this sort of, swashbuckling off the cuff type football, but there's a bit of industry about them too, John. You take Kilkenny and Mannion and Conor O'Callaghan, and then you've got obviously Dean Rock, obviously is their face kicker, but your Brian Hodge, your Nels Scully's, they've got a wee bit of industry in their forward line too. Boys are willing to put a shift in as well. Not just the scoring element. So it's just about trying to get that balance right.
I'm giving you an out here, you see, with your team selection, so you can say it's you needed to pick these boys because of the balance, you see. So
I'm looking at the team here now as we speak, and listen, there's a lot of really good footballers here, and there's a lot of versatility in the team, and there's a lot of quality in the team as well.
No, and we'll get straight into it then, and the number one spot then. Who have you gone for as goalkeeper?
Well, listen, something in school goalkeeping, and normally in school goalkeepers is a problem, and normally you have a really good goalkeeper that comes through the school and you don't have one for 4 or 5 years. We were so blessed in St. Clement's to brilliant goalkeepers, John. Brilliant goalkeepers. We had Gavin Joyce, Shane Harrison, Brendan McVeigh, some fantastic keepers. You know, at Ballyholden I worked with the likes of Liam Poacher, great goalkeeper, huge experience as well, number of championship medals. But I've gone for Brendy. You know, I worked with Brendy and Rake for 3 years, and from an agility point of view, I think they used to call him the cat or something like that, you know, because I've never seen a lad who, from a shot stopping point of view, was as good as John. He was on a different level. Now, the unfortunate thing for Brendy was Brendy's probably being judged now in today's era of Brendy McVeigh. I'm not sure because kickouts, but Brendy came from an era where kickouts weren't the emphasis. You know, it was still goalkeeping first and foremost. And I think if you look at the run in 2010, we were 6-1 down against Offaly, and Brendy pulled off an unbelievable save. Against Kerry in the quarter final, he pulled off 4 or 5 phenomenal saves. In the first 10 minutes against Cork, he kept us in the game in 2010, you know, so and he duly won an All-Star that year as well. I don't know if it was the official All-Star, but I know he won. I think it might have been the Opal one. He definitely won one anyway. But Brendy was fantastic. But John, it's the personality he brings to as well, and you know him as well, like a phenomenal character, like phenomenal, you know, and listen, a great guy to have around the change rooms, and even from a morale point of view, you know, he would have lifted spirits in the blink of an eye. You know, he was a tremendous character, and someone I'm very, very fortunate with.
No, I don't think there'll be too many complaints about that pick at all. It was so. We'll move on to the cornerback then, number 2.
Well, look, this man, I had Aaron Brannigan from Kilcoo of Ireland at number 2, and look, you know, cornerback's a very unique role. You know, sometimes the cornerback can be the wee boy who's thrown in the cornerback at 8 or 10 years of age and stays there all his life, you know, and never gets moved and is pigeonholed in that role. But I think cornerbacks now, John, you know, I don't see that the role now of a cornerback being a stopper or whatever. But this lad, Aaron's a phenomenal athlete first and foremost, you know, and I think the improvements that he's made in his game has been second to none. I think he's one of the top club players in the county, not even in the county, probably in the country this year. You know, he's Kilcoo's go-to man. You know, he would be the man that you would want to mark a man. I was very fortunate to work with Aaron in 2011 in the under 21s, and I remember playing that Tyrone team. And funny, that Tyrone team in particular were a special side. They were wild favourites to win the All Ireland that year, and they were caught in the Ulster final by Gavin actually. But we got them in the first round, unfortunately for us. But I went to 3 replays, and they were unbelievable games, John. You know, being involved in those games were just special because they came every Wednesday night. They were so intense. And first game in Newry went to extra time. The second game in Oma went to extra time. And the third game in the Athletic Grounds, we were 4 up, and they ended up losing by 3 or whatever. It was just a phenomenal 3 phenomenal games. But it's funny because I actually looked at it last year. I think about 9 or 11 of that Tyrone team went on to play for Tyrone there in the last couple of years, you know, in All Ireland semi-finals and finals. I think there was only 1 or 2 of the down team, which is disappointing because Aaron would have been a lad that I would love to see him play for down a lot more, you know. But he was phenomenal. He picked up Matty Donnelly that year and he tortured him. He absolutely tortured Matty Donnelly. But Aaron this year for me, particularly in the first game against Bourne in the championship, sorry, talking about last year, obviously 2019, but facing this year, but Aaron's ability on the ball has improved massively as well. So Aaron gets the nod at number 2.
No, very good. No, exceptional player. Your full back then, number 3.
Maybe not a man that a lot would know outside of the province of Mourne, but Aidan Cunningham and Rake have gone for now. We've had some brilliant full backs. Probably look at the 2027 or the 2017 in St Clements. Young Ryan Norn from Glasnumman was something else. He was like Speedy Gonzalez. The pace that lad had, the strength he had, the athleticism he has. Disappointed Ryan probably never pushed on. Johnny played in an All Ireland semi-final in 2008 for down minors against Mayo in Crow Park, and disappointed Ryan now never pushed on. But Ryan obviously would have been a fantastic athlete, great man marker. You know, obviously other notable names within Shane McNamee, Mayo Bridge, played for down our 21s full back. Shane was a very unique full back, and he never marked height. He always marked 4 or 5 yards in front of his man. Read the game tremendously well. Chatting about another big fella there, Damien McCrink, who's now the Ballyholden manager. Damien was a fantastic full back, great leader, You know, he would never have let you down, John. Never have let you down. Would always have give you 100%. Really suited Mark in the old style traditional full forward of a Mick McGee or a Eddie Burns or someone like that. Would have really suited Mark and someone like that. But I've gone for Aidan Cunningham from Anrake. SE was. I'm going to tell a quick story about SE. SE was different planet stuff. Like SE was, he was something else. I know him and Marty. I think Marty didn't confirm it's a bit better than me, but him and Marty sort of went to Australia around about the same time, or he had trials. Sorry, he didn't go to Australia, but he had trials for the Aussie Rules team at the time. And I think there was a famous story that I see with the down minor team with Mike Ross might have been the manager, and the lads had the game had been called off, and they were all told to go and watch the senior game. But I think SE got lost in Ballybuffet and right back onto the bus with a straw hat an hour later, or an hour later than the bus was meant to leave. But, he was a great character. I could time my phone. I was managing the King for 2 seasons with SE, John, and I could time my phone on a Saturday for 1 o'clock, and the phone would ring from Aidan, you know, and he'd be sitting under a tree in Moran Park, and the rain lashing down a few cams, you know, and he'd be saying, what did you think of last night, Gaffer? You know, and I loved him, but hey, what a player, class act, you know, and anyone who knows Aidan Cunningham would know who I'm talking about, you know.
No, and definitely you can see that you know, it was Enrique's loss whenever, you know, unfortunately just didn't step up at senior level as well, like.
Yeah.
You know. Number 4 then, your cornerback, your other cornerback.
Yeah, listen, you know, quarterback is, again, you know, you're talking about unique and you're talking about great roles. 2010 or 2011, Keith Quinn from Mayo Bridge would have played cornerback for the under 21s. Michael Higgins as well would have played cornerback for the under 21s. You know, we've some brilliant defenders come through St. Columban's as well. But for me, one of the best defenders I have been so fortunate to work with, and a great guy, is Damien Soupy Campbell from Ballyholland, you know, and Damien for me, John, you know, sort of probably went to San Fran, I think, when he was in his prime, or when he was young, early 20s. I think Soupy only wanted to go for 2 months, but he ended up staying for 5 years, you know. But no, Soupy was a great defender, and even in his latter years, John, you know, even at 36, 37 years of age, you know, Soupy was our go-to man. You know, if we needed a man to be pinned down, Soupy was the man for the job, you know, and I know, like, even the likes of, just for talk's sake, I don't know her from Burn, who would have been in his early 20s and in his prime, like, it wouldn't have phased Soupy to go toe-to-toe with him, you know, and it was, he was, the Ballyholland lads would tell you as well, one of the best blockers of the ball I've ever seen. He just would have thrown himself on a ball. He would have come out of nowhere, John, you know, and got his hands on a ball, and you'd be going, did Soupy just block that? You know, it was tremendous stuff, like, but and a real good solid guy, really good solid guy, you know, wouldn't have said boo to a goose, and you know, just real top notch lad. But in the later years then, John, as well, he'd be perfect in that defence, because if a team brings it forward out, Soupy'd be perfect as a sweeper. You know, he reads the game tremendously well. So you've got your 2-man markers there, Aaron Brannigan and Aidan Cunningham, and then you've got Soupy there, that if a team does want to go 3 up, you've 3-man markers, 3 ball players as well, and you've got Soupy to cover, you know.
No, definitely. Remember Soupy playing, and it was actually came across, and then I think he got injured in the Downpatrick game that at the final, that sort of would have wrecked him, but hard as nails, didn't step away from any challenges.
Yeah, no, definitely not. You know.
Okay, so we're going on to our half back line, number 5 then.
Yeah, well, look, you know, number 5. Listen, again, probably mentioning a couple of lads there. Ryan Brady, you know, obviously would have played wing half back as well with Mayo Bridge, with ourselves, Pluggy Barry. You know, you would have had the likes of you know, even at school as well, Michael Higgins as well, probably would have been worth a note there, wing half back too as well. But look, I've gone for Darren O'Hagan from the Downer 21s. John, I've always been a huge admirer of Darren. You know, I've always been a great fan of his. He's a great guy, a solid character, but he's a lad that will just give you absolutely everything, John. You know, and I think Darren is he's probably been the best defender in Down now for a number of years. He's the heartbeat of the Down team this last couple of years as well, you know, and a great fella as well off the pitch too, John, you know. and that lad can play a ball too, you know, going forward as well. He's as confident going forward as he is defending, John, you know. So for me, number 5, Darren O'Hagan.
No, I can see exactly what you're thinking is there, and Darren, exceptional footballer, and always hated marking him. I was always marking him rather than him marking me, but
yes,
number 6 then, your linchpin at the back.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, and again, I suppose I may be thinking from a modern perspective here, because, you know, suppose you go back to the old number 6 and the team that won the All-Ireland St. Clements in 2007. We would have Michael Higgins from Ballymorton. I've referenced Michael now a number of times. Like, Michael was, you know, a huge heartbeat of that team, John. Now, I don't think Michael fulfilled his potential due to a number of reasons. I think one of the reasons being that he probably spent more time away from home in England and New York and the likes of that than he did at home, you know, and probably didn't get a proper run at it. Connor Poland was the same, but yet Connor Poland, you know, did come back, and he's had a sort of a second summer as such, you know, or an Indian summer went down his last few years. But him and Connor that year were special, John. They were great leaders, you know. But I've gone for a more footballing type half back line. I've gone for Robbie White of 6. I've wrote in brackets here Robbie White 2015, and Robbie will laugh at that. But Robbie White, when he was fit in 2015, actually ended up, I don't think anybody would probably remember this, but Robbie ended up winning the Down Division 1 Player of the Year at the annual awards in 2015. I was actually there on the night. He won the Championship All-Star at 6. I don't think some of the Kilkenny Whites were too happy. I probably won't beat in the semi-final that year of the Championship. We also beat the semi-final league. It was probably the most successful year the club ever had, you know, for such a small club. Small panel, senior panel as well. They get the 2 senior semi-finals in the 1 year for the first time in the club's history was huge, John, you know. But Robbie was the pivotal. He was the main linchpin around that success that year. And, you know, it was our highest finish in Division 1 ever, finished 3rd. Robbie played at 6, super fit, but unbelievable on the ball. So what we used to do, John, was very, very straightforward. We used to bring a man back to mark Robbie's man and then free Robbie up at 6. And it was only when we played Clonduff in the quarter-final of the Championship that year, Wright Adams actually put a defender at 11, which was unheard of. Just a man mark Robbie, his influence was that big that year, you know. And what we did at half-time was then we moved Robbie back to 11, and it sort of turned the game. Darren O'Hagan actually ironically ended up at 6, but Darren was that busy in the first half going forward that in the second half he had a mark Robbie. He was thinking, what's going on here? And actually the winning score we got was a goal in the last minute, and Robbie actually set it up. But no, Robbie was tremendous that year, John. Tremendous that year, and phenomenal ball player. And when he's fit, he's so important in that Ballyhone side.
Yeah, and whose decision? Sorry, whose decision was that then, Stevie? Robbie would have been a forward growing up, and then, you know, probably, you know, I was surprised whenever he started playing 6 then as well.
Yeah, well, I suppose, John, the way the game went, you know, the way the game went was a lot of teams were playing, you know, with a number of bodies back behind the ball, and for me, the 6 was really the new 11, you know, and at the time it probably would have raised eyebrows, you know, should he not be closer to goal? But he was actually influencing the game more from 6 because he was on the ball a lot more, John, you know, and the way we sort of tried to free the road up was that we wanted our best ball carriers on the ball coming out of defence. And ironically that year, John, it was one of the first years where we were starting to take a lot of short kickouts. So Liam Cote was in goals, and Liam was very, very good at it. And actually, believe it or not, in the lead up to the winning score, the short kickouts for me in the second half of that Clonduff game in particular, 2015, the short kickouts were the key to us actually clawing back. And we were 4 points down at half time. And the short ended up when we gave a point, but it was our ability, John, to retain the ball from our own kickouts, you know, and be able to work the ball out of the fence. But not that second half in particular, because Robbie was higher up the field. But we wanted ball players coming out of the fence and the ball, so that we had the likes of Joe Murphy at 5, Robbie at 6, Keelan Hockey at 7. All good, competent carriers of the ball, John. All good, competent ball players as well, you know. So you wanted Robbie obviously on the ball as much as possible, and the way the game had gone, John, 6 was influencing the game more than 11, you know.
No, it was a good move. Definitely helped Robbie to a new level as well. Hopefully he gets his fitness back. There's still plenty of years left on him.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've got the other then number 7. Have you gone for a defensive player or an attacking player?
Yeah, no, a bit of both again. We've we've a couple of notable mentions here. I suppose Joe Murphy, was a big one in my eyes. It was like a Joe, I was actually, I was torn over Joe actually because Joe obviously would have been a fantastic. I always said to Joe, when Joe went well, Ballyholden went well, and he probably didn't believe me half the time, but I've gone for Ronnie Sexton of Mayo Bridge, and I think I'd only 1 year with Ronnie, but Ronnie that year in particular, John, was outstanding in 2012. Mayo Bridge were beat in 2 championship finals that year. 2 finals. Championship final by 2 points by Kilcoo, and the league final by a goal by Burn, and both finals were probably overshadowed by goalkeeping errors. Like, that's how tight the games were. And obviously the championship final, losing Pluggy Barry after 10, 12 minutes with a broken leg. God love him, was a huge blow for the side as well, John, because Pluggy was outstanding that year, sweeper, But Ronnie played at 5 that year, John, and I suppose 5, 7 doesn't really matter. But he played at 5 that year, and he was tremendous. He was absolutely tremendous. I was sort of coaching the team with Francie Pole at the time, and he was just brilliant, John. He had a phenomenal, a really fit lad, like a really tremendously fit lad. And I know he didn't play then. The year after that, he didn't play. When I left and Francie left, and sort of when we stepped away, he didn't play much. But I know he came back there recently. But I think he done a bit of coaching then. If I'm right now, I think he might have done a bit of coaching at that stage. But he didn't play anyway in 2013, 2014. But Ronnie was class, breaking ball and tenacity, but could play the game too. Play ball. And so you have a very, very offensive looking half back line there.
No, but Ron, I grew up with that exceptional Mayo Bridge team, and he was phenomenal player. Really was for Mayo Bridge. So that's your defence then. We're going on to the midfielders, and I'm sure you've had looking at it here. 8 and 9. Do you want to talk us through your thinking then?
Yeah, look. It's again, midfield. You're looking at the midfield and you're thinking, right, you're not judging these lads probably on where they are now, because, and I want people to understand that it's where they are when I had them, John.
Yep.
I suppose I have some brilliant lads that have played mid of the field, in school and in county and in club, and look, I've gone number 8. I've gone for Paul Murphy at Ballyholden. I think it's a no-brainer, and I don't just mean from a football perspective, but from a leadership perspective. Like, the heartbeat. If you want to go to war, there's one man you want to bring with you. Murphy would be the man. And I see actually today in the Irish News, Ross Jar picked his best 15 that he coached, and Murphy was in it. But in 2008, John, oh my God, like, the Tyrone lads still talking about it. The Tyrone footballers still talking about the performance that Murphy put in that year against Booher and Newry was unbelievable. The discipline he showed, the work rate, the tenacity, and the edge. And I think that's the big thing. Murph was a great man that played on the edge, and he actually mellowed in his later years. I know you might laugh at that, but he actually did start to mellow, and a couple of silly sendings off maybe overshadowed a few things in his time, but he had everything, and an absolute gentleman off the field. An absolute gentleman, would do anything for you. A nice guy, nice family, and I've just phenomenal respect for that man, because he's the same run as me, age profile, like, and it's probably not easy to come into a change room as a manager with a player the same age as you, but he would have showed you the ultimate respect, and I remember, I'll tell you a story about him, the testament of the guy, and he won't mind me mentioning this story now, because at the time it was a big talking point. But we had played Warren Point. Murph was coming back from a serious injury. We played Warren Point in the league, and it wasn't going. I took him off at half time, and we had a great win in the Point that night. Murph stormed out of the chase and after sort of hit me a wee bit with his bag on the way out the door, and I thought, I'm in a bit of trouble here, he's Murph's not happy with me, and anyway, I went up to the club anyway, and having a pint with Shane McConnell, he follows us to me. nobody's ever taken that man off. He says he's going to make your door in the morning, you know. So we called training for the Sunday morning. We played the Friday night. We called training for the Sunday morning. And you know yourself, many young lads would have spat the dummy out and maybe not showed up or whatever in the championship the following week. I was driving up the Temple Hill Road to go to training, and Murphy was running up the Temple Hill Road at 8:30 on Sunday morning with a rucksack in his back, sweat peeling off him, and landed in the training and smashed into 4 or 5 boys in training. You know, I just thought, awesome, absolutely awesome. You know, just the exact reaction you were looking for. You know, and it was just literally, you know, it was just a small little thing, John, that epitomised everything about the lad's character. You know, and you know, even now, I think he's near 40 now. He could be 40, and he's still soldiering away there for Ballyhone. He was probably one of their best players last year, 38, 39, you know. So, but look, it has to be him. It has to be him because he'd go to war for you. There's no doubt about it as well, you know.
Last year, I got the chance to see Ballyhone a lot, and you know, as you say, Paul was absolutely exceptional, like he was, you know. And I suppose to get at Ballyhone, you have to cut the head of the snake, and you know, the teams probably target Paul a wee bit as well to get a reaction.
Of course, like, you know. And I'm just looking here because I had the team wrote in front of me here. Sorry, and I'm just trying to get it back up in front of me here. That's it now. No, but you're here. Look, if I was going up again in the morning, I'd be telling some might have wind him up. You know, of course, I missed him.
So who's going to partner Paul then in the middle?
Look, you know, this might be a shock for some people because maybe they might think that this lad maybe hasn't really, you know, set the world on fire recently. But I've gone for Conor Poland. Conor would have captain, would have been joined with Michael Higgins in 2007 at St Clements. Logstone lad, now playing for Down, Mark's brother. But listen, John, I'll be honest with you, back in 27, Conor, for me, had the potential to be one of the best footballers in this county, and I mean that genuinely, you know. And I remember saying he was up there with the likes of Benny at that stage. He was phenomenal, unbelievable athleticism, some leap. Like that All-Ireland final we played in Mullingar that day, 31st of March 2007. We were dead and buried, John, you know, and Conor, he just dragged us over the line that day, you know, with phenomenal performance. I'll never forget it. Like, and you know, probably was very unlucky not to win man of the match that day. Eamon Flanagan got man of the match that day, but it was obviously 3 or 4 people voting on the man of the match that day, and Damer got the nod. I think 5 points in play. It was hard probably not to give it to Damer, but Conor's contribution off the ball was phenomenal, and his work rate that day was fantastic. But listen, for me, John, what happened to Conor was a number of things. He probably got too much too soon. He was fantastic that year, and then he was rushed into Pete McGrath's squad the following year at 18 years of age. Now, that was an under-21 team. Sorry, 2 years later, Conor was only 18. And him and Paul Devlin were a 2-man full forward line in the Down under-21s in 2009 that got the All-Ireland final. Should have won the All-Ireland final only for a misplaced pass later on. Like, Conor was playing well beyond his years at that stage, John, you know, and he was just class. He was really, I don't think people now who don't remember him back then appreciate how good Conor was. Conor was special. He was class, like, you know. And then the biggest problem he had was he picked up a number of injuries. Went to London, you know, sort of fell off the down radar a little bit. The club scene, you know, fell off the county scene a little bit. And, you know, it's unfortunate because if you're going to really develop, you know, I remember when he was an under-21, he got called into the senior panel at that stage for a while. He was playing against the likes of Mayo in the National League and stuff as an impact sub. But no, Conor had everything. He had everything. And I remember a story actually from that 2017 that the lads were saying one day they called round for him. You know, I suppose back in the day, the boys were maybe doing a wee bit of partying that I didn't know about or whatever, and they might have been a wee bit younger, but they called around to the house anyway, and Conor wouldn't go out because he was throwing the ball up on the roof of the house, and he was using a small trampoline to spring up and catch the ball as high as he could. And, like, they weren't slagging him, they were just saying how focused and how dedicated he was. But John, the biggest story for me though is back in 2007, we beat Castlewellan by a point in the Down semi-final that year, and we were playing, it was a Friday. We were playing St Mark's in the county final the following Wednesday. Driving over to commiserate with PJ McGee and commiserate with the lads at St Malachy's on the far side of the field. By the time, this is a lad at 16 years of age, by the time I get back to the huddle, Conor Poland and those lads in a huddle, 30 lads in a huddle, in the middle of the huddle on his own, telling them, if anybody goes out this weekend, I'll cut the head of you Monday. And I just thought, that is absolutely phenomenal leadership at 16 years of age, you know. So he makes his team, for me, John, he makes his team because he's got all the attributes, you know. he's just a fantastic athlete and a brilliant fielder as well, you know.
Yeah, his catching ability would have been second to none, Stephen, as well, wasn't it? You know, whenever he's younger, it would have been his standout.
You know, I have a couple of old photographs, John, from that run of that All Ireland. Wonder where he's, you know, the Aussie rules on, where he's up on the man's back, his foot is nearly at the top of the man's back, and he's catching the ball. And Conor was a lad who would have loved to win to Australia, I'd say, you know, and probably would have embraced that at the time, you know. But and he had a fantastic athleticism about him at that age as well, you know. But it's great to see him back down there anyway, you know. Maybe it's probably, you know, 5 or 6 years too late, but it's still good to see him back, you know.
Exactly, no, very good. So that's our midfield then, and you know, I can see why Connor's in with Paul as well. We've got a balance there as well, but your forward line now.
Yeah, well, look, we've got a serious forward line here. You know, we've got. We don't know who's doing the donkey shift. Oh, listen. You know, forwards. You know, obviously, people give me stick saying that. You know, does he play with any forwards? Look, I've been very, very fortunate, John. I think back probably to the early days in St Clements. You know, Ryan O'Hare, Michael Ireland, brilliant footballers, brilliant forwards. And there's a wee story about Ryan. Actually, I remember Ryan as a P5 standing behind the goals in our field in St Clements as a P5, and that's no word of a lie. I'd under 16 seen it. You know, lads who were literally like 10 years older than him or 8 years older than him, and just looking up to him. You know, all he wanted to do was play for St Clements and playing, and he's kicking balls back out to us. You know, and he was there from no age, and he's a lad that you know was so special at that age, left and right foot. You know, Nicky Ireland was the same from Longstone. Darren Doyle, the Kingdom, 2 feet, kicked 3 points in the Ulster final in Clones. Art McCrory and Jimmy Smith from Armagh, couldn't believe this young lad, 45 yards right foot, 45 yards left foot. Damon Flanagan and Rick, Paddy Gartland, you know, some brilliant footballers, Christopher Killen, Tiernan Rush, Ballyholland. Like, the list goes on, you know, you could name them all night.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? You know, John, you really could, like, and, you know, but I suppose you have to start somewhere. I've gone with Danny Savage, and it's not a tactical one because Danny's with Bryansford, but I had Danny at under 21 level with Darren, and I always said consistently for years, you know, Danny probably should have played for Down Seniors, you know, and at that age he should have been grabbed with the 2 hands, crawled into a gym at 19, 20 and said, right, let's get this man on a program, because on his game, John, he frightened, you know, absolutely frightened, and he had the engine, you know, to play wing half forward. He could get back, he could get up the field, but boy, he could play ball too, you know, and kick passing, scoring, you know, supporting the play, athleticism, he had everything, you know, and a tremendous talent. And I've only sort of seen a wee glimpse of it over the last lock of months before lockdown, obviously, with Bryansford, and I've really probably come to appreciate how good Danny was. I knew how good he was because he broke my heart many a night when I was managing Ballyholland, and we had 4 or 5 men hanging out of him, but he was a special talent, so he gets the nod at number 10. But look, wing half forward is a very industrious role now, and you know, you're obviously asking people to work up and down the field, but you know, we could have had Ben O'Reilly. There was another notable one. Ben is obviously a forgotten man. Ben was in that under 21 team as well with me, and Ben had the potential to be like a Brian Dooher for Down, John, you know, but probably just enjoyed the fashion and the high life of London a bit too much, you know. And like everybody had their own nation, and Ben probably just didn't have the hunger and the desire that maybe the Kilcoo lads had at that stage. You know, he was happy enough to take it or leave it, you know. But again, a brilliant footballer, you know.
Danny, definitely, you know, there's no better player in Down whenever he's hot. You know, whenever he's hitting them outside the left foot scores, like it's something to behold, like.
Yeah.
It definitely is. Who is your centre half forward then, your playmaker?
Well, if I didn't pick this man, people would say I'm delusional, you know. So listen, so fortunate to work with Marty. You know, I seen Marty before he went to Australia, John. I seen him scoring 2-12 in Mayo Bridge, and the Kingdom beat Mayo Bridge 2-14 to 2-12 or something. And Marty got 2-12 at 17 years of age. I left that ground that night going, wow, you know, that's something else. I'd heard about this kid, and you know, obviously being in Kilkeel at the time, you know, in St Clements, you would have heard the crack, or sir, you know, Marty Clark is just on a different planet, and obviously you would have got to see him quite a bit, and I would have seen him playing for St. Louis, and just something else. But saying that, when he came back from Australia, and Marty be the first to admit this, his body composition, real quick, you could drift, heavier body composition, a more muscular version. But his game, his vision, his ability to pick out a pass was just on a planet I had never seen before. I remember the first training session, I'll never forget it. We used to train on the down pitch with a raked, a little bogey pitch, behind us. Nonsense, you could hardly see 10 yards of the and that particular was real foggy. And the changes themselves, they weren't Old Trafford or Wembley, they were rough and ready, and the Butcher senior, James Cunningham senior, used to come down, and fill the ice bath, every man thing, the ice bath, you'd be looking at them, you'd thinking, you wouldn't put a dead calf in them, these things, and get into there, boy, you'd be all right. But anyway, Marty landed down anyway, and he was real humble. And this is the first thing I remember that I'm a real humble guy, and I remember the first thing he said to me was, why not have a locker? He said it jokingly, with Collingwood, and his own locker, and he laughed and straight away you just knew the lad was so down to earth. But that weekend the lads would have stag jump. We had 11 players missing that weekend, and I wasn't going to start him because he was only back on the first night, and we're playing Glastonbury on the Saturday. But there was 11 away in the stag, so we started him at centre half forward. I scored 2-4, and the Irish News were there with cameras and his big whole array and stuff like that, he was just. I went into school that Monday, and everybody said to me, "Oh, he must have been unbelievable, 2-4." But Marty scored 2-4 without hardly taking a touch, John. And I said to the young lads in school, watch the amount of times, watch the time he spends on the ball. He was getting the ball, John, it was gone. Bang, gone. Even though, and I'm not being disrespectful to Glasdrumman, I would say Marty, deep down, probably would have thought, I could get this ball and I could do a lot more. But he was playing the game the way you should play the game, limited time, bang, gone, pass, get on the end of things, take a score when it's on, and just phenomenal. And remember back in 2010, Christy O'Connor ringing me from the Sunday Times asking me, what did I see as a coach in Marty, that separated him from the rest. And one of the key things I would say was his peripheral vision was something I had never known. His ability to spot a pass, where did he see that? You'd be sitting going to yourself, how did he see that, But I'll never forget, and it was the 8th of May. I was managing the Kingdom. I think it was 2010, 8th of May 2010 or whatever. And we were playing Longstone, and that was called the El Clasico, Longstone in the Kingdom. And the Kingdom hadn't beaten the Stone in a number of years. It was in the Naval, and we went 3-0 up, 3 great scores early on. We got a free kick on the 21. I thought, fucking brilliant, this is a great start. Just tap this over, puts us 4-0 up. And the Stone, John Paul Hockey was in goals. Marty set the free kick up. And I just sort of looked, I was just ready to chalk down John a point. And I just nearly dropped my book. He pinged a free kick and hit the stanchion and got down for a goal. I just turned around and threw the fist up. And at the end of the game, I just went down and grabbed him and I says, did you mean that? He says, I swear to God, I was practicing it all week in the Abbey at down training. And I was going that's the sort of man he was, And it was actually the night of my birthday. And he texted me that night and he says, happy birthday. I just that's class. Listen, special talent, John. Special talent. One lad I'm very, very fortunate to say that I've worked with.
Yep, and we're moving on to the next forward who's also a special talent.
Yeah, listen, again, he won't like this, but Benny probably has to track back a wee bit on this one, but no, I've gone for Benny. I was very, very fortunate to work with Benny in 2012 with Francie at the Bridge, and Benny, 2012 was the Jim McGuinness, it was the Jim McGuinness probably fad, as you would call it, John, where everybody decided that they would throw men behind the ball, but that year in particular with Francie, we did play a Pluggy Barry at 15 and bring him back. But Mayo Bridge were the highest scorers in Division 1 that year. People probably don't realise that. We averaged about 19 points a game. We finished top of the league. And we lost 5 of our county under-21s that year to America. It was Shane McNamee, Conleth O'Hare, Ryan Brady, Kevin McClory. I can't remember who the other one was, but there was 5 of them anyway went to America that summer. And we were left with a very skeleton team, and it probably brought out the best of the older lads, the likes of Benny, Ronnie Sexton, Mickey Walsh, to come into the fray a wee bit too as well. But one of the things I remember, John, that year was that we found we weren't getting enough out of Benny at full forward because teams were playing a lot of men behind the ball at that stage, just starting to do that. So in around the D and in around the full back line was crowded. So we decided we would play Benny in the middle of the field. And it was like an Indian summer. It was like Ferguson bringing back Paul Scholes. You know, he was outstanding. And the only team probably that got better that year was Kilcoo in the final. It was a masterstroke by Jim McCrory. Masterstroke. Not afraid to admit that. Myself and Francie still have nightmares over it. But he played Niall McAvoy in the middle of the field, and we had looked at the matchups and thought we didn't see that one. But what he did was McAvoy pulled Benny out of the middle for every single kicker. So McCoo had a kick out, John, and he pulled himself way out of the stand, and Benny was nearly half following him. And because Benny was winning everything in the middle of the year, you know, and listen, it was a good play. It was the days before, because I watched the 2014 All-Ireland final, and there was still no kick-out strategy. But it was just before the real kick-out strategy started to come in, John. You know, you had one or two kick-outs, but everybody was still dumping the ball out long at that stage, you know. And Benny and Big Cal McGee were great ball winners for the Bridge that year, you know. But that final I'll never forget. You know, in hindsight, we should have threw the curveball. We should have maybe started Benny at full forward that year, you know. But Benny's in at 12, and the fact of the matter is, John, Benny could be in at 10, 11, 12, 14, 15. Yeah. No forward name without him. Classic.
No, there's nothing more can be said about the man. Like, he's exceptional, and you know, he's still playing away and still exceptional.
And in that team, just to let Benny know, in that team he's playing sweet.
He'd probably do a good job there too.
A double sweep in the morning.
So we're going to be in the full four line now, Stevie.
Yeah, look, well, the first man, number 13, is look, again, I had some brilliant corner forwards, John. Some brilliant corner forwards, you know. I think back Mickey Ireland, Ryan O'Hare, Ross McGarry, you know, with the under-21s. Ross was a class footballer. Like, you know, Jesus. Like, Ross, for me, last year was one of the best inside forwards in the county, you know. There's no question about it. But this man for me, I was chatting about him tonight, actually, to the neighbour of mine, like, Ronnie Murder from Ballyholland, you know, one of the best club footballers for over a decade, John. For over a decade, he was class. He was absolutely class. One of the top 6 forwards in Down, in my opinion. You know, when everybody was in their club, and would have carried the can for Ballyholland on numerous occasions. But Ronnie had everything, John. He had everything, and he had the swagger, the top of the down swagger. Ronnie had it in abundance, you know. But and again, go back to Murph. The respect he showed me was just on a different planet, you know. So, and I suppose my dad always said to me, John, going back to your influence as coaching, you know, he always said to me, son, remember, respect works both ways. And the respect I had for those lads was just, you know, and from that has probably formed a lifelong friendship, you know, from that, like, and great guy, and just loved Ballyholland, loved Down, you know, just loved playing football. And I suppose Ronnie's biggest challenge in his later years was probably his inability to maybe adapt and accept a different role. You know, if you think of soccer, Ryan Giggs was a dynamic winger all his life, and then he maybe moved to like more of a central, slower role. Scholes was the same. He was dynamic, and then if Ronnie could have adapted a little bit more, and I want to play him at 6 1 year in nearly like an orchestrating role. And I remember thinking, he's never going to fucking buy this, you know, because he just get it into me. I'll get us a goal, you know, and that was him, you know. And we were laughing about it the other day. We went to a sevens tournament in St. John's, and I love the Bones Room way, and I love the Bones Room. I mean that, like, I went to a sevens tournament in St. John's, and I'll never forget it. I actually ended up playing. It was a charity thing, and John Clark had asked us Friday. I could only get him to get a 9, and I ended up slipping out years ago. And it was one of the best journeys home from the sevens ever, because we were in St. John's, and Tony Haver doesn't drink, so Tony drove Ronnie's van home, and we stopped at every watering hole on the way home from St. John's. Like, so we stopped in Castlewellan, with Durford, and Hilltown. But at half time in one of the sevens games, you know what sevens is all about? We back behind the ball, and we'll move it through the hands, and we'll work a score. And we were half time, Ronnie, look, I'm in there, just throw it into me, he'll get us a goal, you know. And that was the type of him, you know. He had so much belief. That's the big thing, John. No matter who he was coming up against, whether Ronnie Murder was 38 against the best defender in the county at 24 in his prime, Ronnie believed, I'm better than him. And that was just, that the belief he had in his own ability was just class. Real joy to watch him. Listen, he's putting his own bit back now. He's doing a lot of work around the region, Ballyholland and stuff too, you know, and you have to hand it to him, like, a real good lad. And would have went through a door for you. You know?
Do you see in 2010, Ronnie had a he came on as substitute. He was like
Right.
against Sligo. I think he turned the game as well, didn't he?
That's right.
Do you think he should have started?
Well, you see, I'm in a different opinion. I actually think Ronnie probably was struggling to accept that role, and he wanted to start and probably wanted to be there, and maybe probably could have started, but the role he had was so influential because, like, he was coming on. I remember Tony Buckley telling me this about Dublin. He says when he was Mayo coach, he says, look, there's the problem we have in Mayo. We have a Lee Keegan, DeMarca, Kieran Kilkenny, and he'll go toe to toe with Kilkenny for 50 minutes, 55 minutes. Kilkenny will start to tire, and Lee Keegan will start to tire John. But they'll pull Kilkenny off, and they'll put a forward on equally as good as him. But Mayo don't have the defender to come on equally as good as Keegan, And that's the road Rooney could have had in 2010. He did have, really. Was defenders were starting to get tired and fatigued. This Rooney Murder was coming on, flying fit, sharp, razor sharp, giving, going, popping points. And I think if Rooney probably could have got his head around that, and that's not disrespect Rooney, that was just a belief that Rooney had, John, in his own ability. And he probably seen Danny, his peer, John, lads he played with all his life, starting. That's the way Rooney would actually start, and that I admired that about him too, and I suppose, looking back on it, impact sub, he was probably going to be a better impact sub. Put it like this: if you look at the lads who played inside, Paul McComiskey, Clark Aid, who else was inside? Well, Marty played at 15 tonight, Poli played 11. Rooney was probably going to have a bigger impact than any of them because of the dynamic nature of his game, John. So it probably was the right role from the 2010.
No, I grew up with Rooney, and from no age he's been just an exceptional footballer. And as you said, his hunger and the way he trained was something else. That's what stuck with me, and that's why I always say, if it's good enough for Rooney Murder to train like that, there, whose skills second to none. Every young fella should be like that. Then
he picked up an injury, John, on a Friday night in a league game, like a dead leg or something, or a quad or whatever. A dead quad or whatever, or knock on the side of the quad. A dead leg's hard to shift. And he arrived in training the Monday night, and I said, "How are you training?" He says, "I set my alarm all weekend for 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning to get up and ice it." Now this was a lad in his mid-30s. He wasn't a lad at 19, 20, 21. Not a chance doing that, but that was ingrained in him, John. That was just ingrained in him. It was a culture of train, recover, ingrained in him, and he's now doing triathlons. You'll probably see him in the next Olympics.
And we'll move on to probably the man he was fighting with, as you said, in 2010 to start them.
Absolutely. Listen, Clarky, I call John a very good friend now, and he's not in this team because he's a good friend. John Clark's in this team because he's one of the most naturally strong lads I've ever come across, John, playing football. And I never seen Clark in a gym, but he was in the shape of his life. He'd probably tell you he does do weights, but I don't know if he does. I think he just does the odd press up or something, but he's just naturally, freakishly fit. And, I would have done a lot of running with John, even when I left the kingdom, John, I left the kingdom in 2012, 2011, And even, for the next 7-8 years, I would have met John in Kilbrony on the way home from school. He would have been on the way back down to the house. I'd have been the way home. We struck up a real good friendship, and we would have shared a few pints and a bit of crack, and he'd come here and stay maybe once or twice a year, and would have an old shindig in the town, a bit of banter, great guy, lovely fella, John, but his football ability was class. I wouldn't even say his football ability. I think one of the things that would stand out from was his ball winning ability, John, and every forward line needs that point man. They need that, that man that can win a ball, and, John could do that. And I did a wee bit of coaching last year with Francie and Marty down in St. John's, a couple of drop-in sessions and stuff with them. And, it was a year out of club football. I really enjoyed it, actually. Really enjoyed it. It was a bit of fun, bit of banter, and, they're great lads down in St. John's. And, going down to intermediate football as well was a real freshness for me, John. I got to see a different type of football. I got to see more teams. I got to open my eyes to more sides and down as well. But, John was, he was probably the best player. He was the best player. And he was the best player I seen that year, probably in that division, John. You know what I mean? And that's not an exaggeration. That's true. Me and Francie some nights be going, are you serious? How's that man winning that ball? Unbelievable ball winner, and was so unselfish. Wasn't interested in his score, and I think John got a fair an unfair, probably a crack of the whip in 2010, John. I think a lot of people, felt that Clarkey probably didn't deserve to be in the team. I actually think Down were a better team with John in it than they were without him, because he was that pivotal ball winner. He was winning a lot of dirty ball that people wouldn't see that. People only see John. They see the cynics and the pundits and the Barstool Brigade. They only see the fancy scores and the dummy toe taps and stuff like that. They don't see that hard graft and that ability to win a ball that other guys can't, So for me, he was in there. And listen, I'm not just based on a ball winning alone. Like, the lad could take a score, as comfortably, and could hit a free and could hit the onion bag as well,
He was he went to St. Louis when he was a year below me, and he was accurate as anything, but he was a brilliant back. He was absolutely brilliant.
I could be wrong here. I think in '99 he was cornerback.
He was, yeah.
Minor team, when a minor team, had a played him at 5 as well. And he was versatile. He played a wee bit at 6 as well for St. John's too. Like, I remember one night the King went down to 14 men. I think I moved him back to 6, and he looked at me with 2 eyes. That was probably the start of my demise as an offensive coach. He says, "Go back, set at 6." But no, great lad. And
I'll tell you what, Steve, he strips out a massive, doesn't he? Like, whenever.
I want to know, is he taking EPO or what's he after?
It's good to see he's back for another year as well.
Listen, great lad.
And your last one then. So is this your sweeper, or are you playing 3 men up top, or what are you?
No, well, look at the option of that, but no. I've gone with tradition. We're going Cora Finn style. No, listen, it's a debatable one. I've probably debated over 3 here, John. I've probably debated over Ryan O'Hare, Mickey Ireland, and Conor Harrison. But it's hard to leave Harrison out. It's hard to leave him out because even though he was a madman at school, he not mind me saying that. Like, but I remember Harrison in school, and it was mental. Like, we played Castlewellan and PJ McGee. I'll never forget it. PJ McGee had a team. He had a team. We actually went on to win the All Ireland in 2006, and we had Harrison. Big Crow kind of, but we played them in the league in Ballymore in the Basic Schools League, and I'll never forget, John. We beat them by 2 or 3 points, and Harrison scored something mad like 111 or 2-9 or something. I can't remember what it was, And Harrison was our team. We tried to pull everybody out and just kick it in them, and leave Harrison in there, and that all you had to do was kick the ball. He would have won it. He was class, But he ended up getting suspended from school for the semi-final, and look, I think he left his pen at home or something, Yeah. I'll not tell you the full story. He forgot his book. That's what it was. So, we ended up playing Castlewellan and Glasdrum. We lost by 7 or 8 points in the down semi-final, and Castlewellan went on to win the All-Ireland. But believe it or not, Conor doesn't realise this, but Conor missing out that year actually probably won us an All-Ireland the following year, John. I'll tell you why. It made the likes of Michael Higgins and Michael Ireland and Conor Poland and all these boys sit up and go, if you behave in school, you're off the panel, And I didn't put him off the panel. It's just the fact that he had this principal at the time said, "No, I can't play." And that was annoying and it was disappointing. But look, I'm not judging him on that. Like, at the end of the day, Conor was an exceptional footballer, and I love the absolute roast he gave through Wiley that day in the athletic grounds. And you could see every time he struck a point on Wiley, you could see him talking to him, and I was just going, I'd love to know what that harsh man said through Wiley there, But no, and again, a great character. I'll tell you one thing: when you look through that team, like, if there's some team you're going to be anyway,
I think that's the overriding factor.
If you start with McVeigh and Jesus, certainly you even got in, you might stay there for 4 days. But no, listen, it's a great side. It's a side that I debated long and hard off. But as I said to you, I've given a lot of notable mentions there. I mentioned the Carlo lads as well. I'm sure, there'd be a scramble over the free kicks. Roderick would be fighting with Marty Clark, who hit the freeze out of the left foot. And, you'd have Brendan Murphy could probably slide in there as well. And, and Gannon and the likes of that. But look, we've gone with lads we're probably all familiar with and we all know. And, I hope I haven't insulted anybody or failed out anybody, but as I say, I've been very fortunate, John, to work with some football.
Who would you put as captain then, Stevie, and why?
Well, I would say Murph, but then if he's sent off every other week, like, you'd be left with no captain, No, listen, you would probably look at someone like the likes of Murph or John O'Hagan, John, maybe a joint captaincy there, because they wouldn't just talk the talk, they would walk the walk, you know.
No, Steve, that's brilliant, and appreciate you coming on tonight.
Not a
It's
problem
never
at all,
it's
John.
never an easy thing to pick 15
No,
players, especially with the amount of grief you're going to get. But
that's it. But you know something, look, you get it out there and we'll have a bit of banter over it. And look, you know what the thing about it is as well, the lads know the respect I have for them, John. You know, every one of them know the respect that the you know probably the quality of what they all possess. Like they know what I think of them, you know. So I don't need to go into that, you know, any greater detail, like, you know. So anybody that's been left out, they can
message you.
you know. Oh yeah, man. Actually, I did forget about and just to come into my head there now. Kingdom man, Liam McVeigh, Silky, class footballer, absolutely class. Like, you know, that's a man that just came into my head there now, John. You know what I mean? You know, you're thinking back, and I remember actually telling a good story with him. We'll finish on that. Like he says, I remember saying to Silky, he says, like, would you never think about going to town, like, you know, and I think we're giving the county rattle Silky because he was class. He was absolutely class. He used to have the jersey up like Jalper Blanc. That's just the way he used to train. You know, I don't know how he trained with no hands, but anyway. So he says to me one time, he says, he says, that means training over the winter, Stevie. Like, and the winter's my downtime. He says, like, you know, and he just, you know, some of the characters you had, John, as well, was just a different level. But sure, look, we miss those days, and hopefully we'll be back soon, big man, you know.
Yes, and all the best with Bryansford this year. And I don't know what's happening with the down minors. I suppose everything's up in the air at the minute. So
yeah, we got a draw. We were due to play this Saturday this Saturday, 2 days time against Donegal in Ballybuffet, and what do you call it? James McCartan had paid for us all to be put up in Jackson's that night. Now he didn't know that, but he said to me, "I'll sort of think with Jackson's management team." No, I'm only joking. No, but we were due to play Donegal and Ballybuffet, and obviously it's not going to happen now. But the lads were going well, John. Great bunch of lads. Some great talent in that team too as well. You know, and you know, we probably would have seen that team as having a chance of progressing maybe in the Ulster League and seeing what would happen from there. You know, but we've got Fermanagh now if it happens. So fingers crossed that we'll get some sort of a go with it, you know.
No, fingers crossed is right, and for everyone involved. Hope everyone's safe and well, and you know we get the sport back up and running